What's the motherfucking deal, man? Welcome to Salt Sports. If you're not familiar with Salt Sports is a Houston, Texas homer network. Meaning we talking all sports, but only Houston. With that being said, if you don't know now, you know I am your host, Ed Honcho. Houston homeboy, Houston homer, aka HonchoSaucy. However you get down, man. Make sure you're following Salt Sports on all the proper social medias. You can catch that down below. Salt Sports HTX on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook.com/Salt Sports. So, man, today we have a lot to talk about. But before we talk about it, make sure you like, subscribe, share this with your friends. And we're on a mission. And thank you to everybody who's been showing love, donating to Save the Sauce. Link in the description below. Streamlabs.com/Salt Sports if you want to show some love to that. And we'll share the goal and how far we are, how close we are to the goal tonight on the live stream at 7 p.m. Central. So what we have to talk about tonight is, my doppelganger. He looked like me. I don't look like him. I don't really think we even look like each other. Most of y'all motherfuckers just be hating, talking about y'all see a motherfucker with some dreads and they look alike. But Jadeveon Clowney hit with the franchise tag today. The Texans said, man, fuck that bullshit. We ain't finna play around. We ain't finna, miss out on the deadline and let him walk for nothing. We're not finna pull another Mario Woods. We're not finna pull another AJ Bouye and get screwed out of the deal. We're actually gonna go make a play and try to make something happen. So I think that the Texans honestly want to work out a long-term deal. I think that they really want to keep Jadeveon Clowney. But as it's been reported, the sides are just not seeing eye to eye right now. It was reported last year, and we talked about this last year when it happened early in the season that, a deal was offered. Clowney's camp didn't like the number. They were expecting something a little bit different. And I can see both sides, and we'll talk about that in a second. But so right now, with him being franchise tagged, he's making about 15.4 because I think they're trying to franchise him at the outside linebacker designation as opposed to the defensive end designation, which would be like 17.1. And hey, if you're still playing a game, $1 million is a big deal. So he's been hit with a non-exclusive franchise tag, which means that he can negotiate with other teams. But if he does happen to go elsewhere or another team does sign, then the Texans will get 2 first-round picks. So they, like I said, they're not playing any games. They're going to take that L. Texans have not used the franchise tag in 10 years, and I want to say that was on Dante Robinson in 2009. So very interesting to see that Gain comes in. To me, he's been much more aggressive than Rick Smith was during his tenure. And again, this is not saying anything against Rick bad, but trust me, we just spilled all that sauce on Rick about all the bad shit he's going through it right now. He's got his own set of problems, so it's not to shit on Rick or kick Rick while he's down or anything like that. We still wish him well, everything that he's gone through. But I just like some of the moves Gain has made with a lack of assets, but we can't give him that too much longer. He has plenty of money to spend. More than likely, Kevin Johnson's going to get cut, so there'll be more money to spend in via free agency. So we'll see what happens. But the way the Texans have been talking, it looks like a lot of the moves are going to be going on during the draft. But getting back to Jadeveon Clowney, let's kind of talk about this situation and how I feel about the situation, what I think about it. There's only been 2 players in Texans history that I've been adamant about the Texans getting, and they actually went out and got. One of them being Jadeveon Clowney, the other being DeAndre Hopkins. And, well, you see how well Hop has fared for us. And Clowney could be in that same camp. Had some injuries early on. Started to kind of find his own, the last few years. I know a lot of people look at sack numbers and fuck a sack. TFL includes sacks because they're basically the same thing. If you're losing yards, you're losing yards. Don't matter if it's the quarterback. Don't matter if it's the running back. Don't matter who has the fucking ball. If you're causing a team to lose yards, you're making big plays. Now, Clowney is a great run stopper, solid pass rusher. I know a lot of people say that he can work on his pass rush move, and this is true because there's been times we've seen Clowney kind of, get held up by a tight end, or sometimes it seems like the motor might not be all the way there. But still, Clowney is one of the most dominant players in the league. It just seems like sometimes he cuts it on when he wants to, cuts it off when he wants to, and I know a lot of people would like to see more sacks and get off that shit, get off the fucking sack numbers. Now, I'm going to look at this from 2 perspectives. I'm going to look at this from the player perspective. I'm going to look at this from the franchise perspective. And the franchise, of course, they're going to say, well, you missed some games this year. Albeit though they say that it was because the franchise Clowney said he was healthy, that he could have went, he could have played, but, we can talk about that. And they'll say, throughout your history, you almost had surgery every season. And, this might be the first one. I think he hadn't had to get anything cleaned up or any kind of little surgeries, but still, missed a couple of games. And again, they could have played that move, to kind of fuck him over to have better negotiations in the long run. But that shit actually might end up biting him in the ass. We'll get into that, later in the stream tonight as we dive deeper onto this topic. And so they're going to look at all the numbers and say, well, you're supposed to be a pass rusher. You're not really getting sacks. Your tackles for losses, they're pretty good. Your overall tackles, I think he had like 47 this year or something like that. And averaging about a tackle or loss per game, so like that. I can't remember. I don't have the numbers on me at hand. And so they'll try to use statistics. They'll try to use numbers. They'll try to use the numbers that are recorded to validate the whatever contract offer they're giving him. Okay. Clowney's going to say as well, hey, man, look at my play. Look at what I do. Look at the attention that I receive. Look how well I've done with, nobody else around here to help me out. When JJ was down, when Merciless was down, I had to be the face of the franchise on defense, and how well I performed. Look at the potential. Look at the position you have me in. And the thing is that I personally feel Jadeveon, and I think many people should realize that Jadeveon should be playing defensive end, not a fucking outside linebacker. And instead of trying to fit to Romeo Crennel's scheme, either you get rid of Romeo or Romeo needs to fucking adjust and put players where they belong, because that's not where the fuck Clowney belongs. It's not where Merciless belongs either. But again, yeah, those guys are way smarter than we are. They get paid the big bucks. It is what it is. But, Clowney's going to argue, his dominance on the field, his presence on the field opens up lanes and avenues for other players to find success, at his expense. And you could look at both arguments. You could say both are right. But, one side is cashing the checks, one side is writing the checks. And so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And if everything doesn't work out, the Texans made the smart move by saying, okay, well, if he does negotiate, he does get an offer somewhere else, we're not going to match it. Hey, at least we'll get some first-round picks in return. Don't be surprised if you don't see, the Raiders heavily in the conversation, because that's something I've said, because they've had a lot of assets. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of other teams that are interested in Clowney. Let's hope that if it does happen and he does walk, the Texans are smart and don't let him walk to another team in the AFC, especially the AFC South, with the Colts having a significant amount of change to throw at some players. So we'll see. And then we'll have to see if teams have that same level of interest, or teams, how do they view the other teams in the league, view Clowney like the Texans view him, or do they feel like, hey, we're just going to make him a defensive end. We're going to let him fly free. We're going to let him do what he's supposed to do, as opposed to that stupid ass shit that the Texans have going on over there, trying to be too cute, being too crafty, and moving him all over the place, which is cool. But let's be honest, it works to an extent, but I think you just let him have a position, let him be comfortable, and let him play fucking football. It is what it is. So a couple other Texas players that we're going to have to be able to look out for is Honey Badger, because apparently those two sides are not seeing eye to eye either. We'll talk about that in a later video. This is mainly about Clowney and the situation with that. So I want to know how y'all feel. Do you think that the Texans made the right move by franchise tagging Jadeveon Clowney and not letting him walk? Do you think that, how far apart do you think they are on contract negotiations? And do you think that even though they franchise him, I think they have until like July 15th, that they can still come to a long-term deal, and that we see Clowney as a part of this franchise for the foreseeable future? Or do you think that Clowney walks? I want to know what you think, Sauce Nation. Hey, y'all already know how this goes. If you ain't if you ain't subscribed, if you're not a part of the channel, if you're not here live every night at 7 p.m., almost every night at 7 p.m., you're not a part of the conversation, you're not calling into the show, man, you missing out. Hey, for all you fresh ingredients who've been showing love and been supporting, and all those who've just been sending well wishes, hey, man, I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you tune in tonight at 7 p.m. Central. We got a lot to talk about, because this is some very interesting news, not surprising news, but very interesting news that they've gone ahead and finally kind of made that move, and we need to see where the Texans end up going from here. So we have lots to talk about. And with that being said, hey, man, you guys are the freshest motherfucking ingredients in the world. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, for showing love, and just for being a part of the conversation. With that being said, I am your host, Ed Honcho. Make sure, again, Sauce Sports HTX on Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook.com/Sauce Sports. Make sure you go and like the page. Make sure you become a part of the Sauce Sports official Facebook group. All the links are in the description below. With that being said, again, y'all be cool like y'all be cool. Hey, but most of all, y'all stay saucy. I'm out.